Welcome to Protect and Grow with Chicagoland certified financial planner Tim Stearns of TJ Stearns Incorporated. Trust, respect, and results. TJ Stearns Incorporated focuses on comprehensive financial planning and benefits.
And welcome into the program. This is Protect and Grow, Chicagoland Retirement with Chicagoland's certified financial planning professional, Tim Stearns, CFP, your resource, ladies and gentlemen, for a common sense approach to planning for your financial, investment, and retirement future, putting a perspective on the money world that you can implement and execute to help achieve and accomplish your important financial goals. Tim, always a pleasure. Glad to have you along with us.
Peter, thanks for having me.
We are going to be talking about really what I view, Tim, as the core of retirement success, which is identifying, understanding, and controlling our expenses. And today, we've got a fantastic resource that you've put together, the 3 biggest expenses in retirement and how to plan to control them. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we get going, I do want to remind you that if you've got questions, if you would like a complimentary review retirement planning strategy session, if you'd like to sit down with Tim Stearns, CFP, and put together your own proprietary Protect and Grow plan for retirement, the written retirement income plan, or if you just like the resource of this report, the 3 biggest expenses in retirement and how to plan to control them, pick up the phone, give a call, 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. Tim, when you break it all down, retirement's a pretty expensive phase of our life, and we've really got a plan for how to address that.
I agree with you. Basically, we're looking at going through the 3 biggest retirement expenses. And I think the first one's kind of, everyone knows it's there, but a lot of us don't realize how big it will be. And that is the largest expense will be taxes. Most of us are using qualified funds nowadays, meaning 401ks, 403bs, 457s that we've put away our whole lifetimes. And we're putting it away, deferring taxes, and then we start taking it out. And guess what? The IRS has never touched that money. It's going to be taxable. So that is the number one expense that we have in retirement.
And we've got to have a plan for how to control them. Tim, you have talked about the fact that as you are teaching your retirement classes and ask the question, what direction taxes are going into the future, the consensus generally is that taxes could be going up.
Well, regardless of political party, I've never had anyone give me a thumbs down as to the taxes going down. Everyone knows that, in my mind, and I think a lot of the people in my classes, that taxes are on sale right now, right? Income taxes are the lowest they've been in over 60 years. So you have the ability to do maybe some Roth conversions right now so that you could start to get the tax bill paid, nibbling on that bill. That's going to be very big. The one thing that we do for our clients or anybody who calls into the show is we will run a report and show them what their taxes will be over their lifetime as they retire and they start to take out money. There's 3 components to that. Number one, what are the taxes going to be to the person with required minimum distributions? Number 2, once they take that money out, if they don't use it all, they're probably going to reinvest it, right? So there's going to be taxes there. And the last one, and a bigger one nowadays because of the Secure Act, is going to be that the fact that they have to leave their money to their family, right, as a legacy, or even if you leave it to an individual not related to you, that person has to drain your account within 10 years. And with that, you have 3 major taxes. We can actually calculate that for anyone out there in Chicagoland that wants to know, what does my $1 million over my lifetime cost me if it's in an IRA? We'll be happy to do that for them.
And if you would like your own Protect and Grow plan, that written lifetime retirement income plan, pick up the phone, give a call, 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. Tim, regardless of the direction taxes may go into the future, up, sideways, or down, having that written retirement income plan, taking a proactive look at taxes can help us control that tax liability.
By having that plan, that income allocation plan, you can actually calculate what your taxes are going to be. And what that does is that makes you get ahead of it. and start actually planning for retirement where you're going to have taxes. I talk about this all the time in our retirement class that, we have all of us do this to each other in April. What do? We Monday morning quarterback what we should have, could have, would have done in the year previous. So why wouldn't you're going to be retired for 10, 15, 20, maybe 30 years. Why wouldn't you get ahead of it and know what your tax bill is going to be and then start to trim it down? Start to pay on the seed, not the crop of the growth, right? And I tell people, even if they're in their 60s, take a look at the 401k Roth if you're able to do that. Look at conversions, and if your advisor's not having that conversation with you, then you're missing out. You're missing out on an opportunity where, we have the Trump tax laws are here for 22, 2023, 24, and 25, and they go away, if not sooner. Why would you not act on that actionable item right now?
Once again, it's an important factor to address and control. We are talking about this resource that Tim Stearns has available, the 3 biggest expenses in retirement and how to plan to control them. Number 1 on the list, taxes, your largest known expense in your lifetime. And according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American will pay $480,407 in taxes throughout their lifetime, an average of about 34.49% of lifetime earnings spent. Tim, obviously something that where we've got the ability to control it, we need to take those proactive steps.
And that it starts here, and we have a CPA on staff. We have an excellent report that really drums down the nuts and bolts of how that looks. Give us a call and we'll be happy to show you a better way. I mean, who wants to give the government more money than their fair share? Come on. So I would tell people, if they are worried about what their tax bills are going to be in retirement, give us a call. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat.
800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. Tim, I think that this is important regardless, but there are some specific instances where this becomes even more of a pressing issue. If we plan to try to retire before 59 and a half, if we are looking at when and how to make the most out of our Social Security, if we're looking at Medicare, and if we do face those RMDs, required minimum distributions, tax planning, a proactive, forward-looking approach and plan for controlling taxes is going to be absolutely important to our outcome.
I agree with you. And the reason being is that taxes are on sale. That's what you have to keep telling yourself. No one wants to pay taxes today, but if they're going to go up for certain in the future, why wouldn't you act on this? You're looking at people who are, procrastination is the enemy to anything that you're trying to make yourself better. So I tell people, take a look at what your tax bill is now or what you could change it for in the future. It's priceless.
Number 2 on the list, our largest potential expense, healthcare. Tim, how do we even begin to approach this topic and then possibly control this potential expense of healthcare?
Well, it is a conundrum. Speaking of something that's going to keep going up in cost, right? The government doesn't seem to have a handle on it. Obamacare hasn't really benefited many people that I know of. So how do we do that? Well, when we're doing an income allocation plan for someone who might want to get out of whatever their job is prior to age 65, you bet your bottom dollar that we're going to make that an entry in their plan. We've had people come in and say, yeah, I've got all hit my costs here. And I'll say, well, what are you going to do about insurance from age 61 to 65? What do you mean? I'll say, well, Medicare doesn't start till 65. Oh, I never really thought about that. It can't be that bad. And when you start looking at the numbers, it gives you pause. So I would tell anyone, when you're doing a plan, a retirement income allocation plan, it uncovers every little sore that you might have and make sure that it's being addressed before you find out that you can't afford to retire.
And Tim, the average healthcare expenses that are expected for a healthy 65-year-old couple newly entering retirement are above $320,000 on Medicare premiums, copays, and deductibles alone. That's according to Healthcare or Health View Services, and that was actually a 2018 study of healthcare costs in America. That does not include dental, vision, or long-term care, where those expenses can grow exponentially higher.
Exactly. And what I've noticed in my classes is many people think somehow Medicare magically takes care of long-term care expenses. No, it does not. And the last thing you want to do is some people will say, well, what about Medicaid? You have to have very few assets to have that. So that's not really a thing in Chicagoland for us. So we have to look at, how do you take care of long-term care expenses? 7 out of 10 Americans are going to need that. And 9 out of 10 of us don't have insurance for something like that.
Tim, controlling expenses is confidence and quality of life in retirement. So with these expenses so uncertain of whether or not we're going to encounter them, and then so costly, even if we don't, but especially if we do, how do we begin to plan to protect ourselves? Are there any proactive strategies or methods for addressing the potential cost of healthcare?
Definitely. You're going to want to budget for it. And how do you budget? By having a plan. I don't think that is something you want to wing in retirement. That is something you want to definitely put aside a good chunk of money towards, so that the last thing you want to do is find out when you're 63 years old that you don't have enough money to pay your health insurance and therefore have to go back and get a job. These are things that really are concerning to people, but they don't want to talk about it. It's 800-pound gorilla in the room. So our income allocation plan, having a plan, will address all that and a lot more.
Well, when you talk about a lot more, Tim, the potential, the possibility, the concern about long-term care is always looming out there as well. That is an additional layer of uncertainty and potentially catastrophic cost.
Well, let's put it in perspective. My friend has to put his in-laws, who both have memory problems, Alzheimer's, dementia, that type of thing, in a place, and it's $8,000 per individual. And take a guess, this is on the low end. I've told that to retirement classes, and people say, oh, that's nothing compared to XYZ facility. That's 30 grand a month. And it goes on and on exponentially, the cost I've seen. So how do we do this? Well, there are long-term care products out there that are hybrids that, have a life insurance component to it, have a cash value component to it. And then lastly, they also have the ability to pay if you cannot do 2 of your activities of daily living. You can actually pull out 25% of the death benefit tax-free to pay for your care. And my wife and I did it, and I would tell anyone to at least explore the option. If you find it's too expensive, well, then you're going to be on a wing and a prayer, and that's sometimes that's going to happen, right? But if you can't afford it, why not look into something like that?
What about the traditional method of long-term care insurance? Where does that fall into our planning process to address this second most high potential expense in retirement?
Well, first of all, you have to find a company that will do a long-term care policy. Many of them have gotten out of the business. For example, John Hancock, which was a staple of that, got out a couple of years ago. So a lot of insurance companies are leaving that industry because A, they didn't price it right, and B, the clients don't want it anymore. Use it or lose it. Who wants that type of insurance? And the chances of you needing it are good. So why not have something like that? And that's why I think the hybrids are at least a great way to explore whether you can do it, or at least take some of the bite out of having to use it for your wife or yourself.
Can you give us a quick rundown comparison, maybe even just a high level comparison of the traditional long-term care insurance versus these hybrid linked approaches that you're talking about?
No problem. So we just had a client who they had a policy for about the last 20 years. Their long-term care payments per month, meaning what they had to pay the insurance company, was going from $2,000 to $3,800 per month for each of them. And instead we chose, she had wanted no part of that. She's an accountant by trade. So she saw that there was no value to that. And they're cutting back what the benefits were going to be. So we actually did she's going to pay in for 10 years, about $21,000 and have benefits of about 25% of a $350,000 policy that she'll be able to pull down on tax-free. So I think she saw the bang for her buck there. She's in excellent health now. The husband, not so much. And they both were able to do it. So there's your difference. Paying in a lot for something you might never get back the value of versus, putting money into something like a life insurance policy that has living benefits.
Bringing up current health status, though, is an important factor. Tim, this is something that we really more and more increasingly need to do sooner rather than later because the underwriting and the medical qualifications are getting more scrutinized, correct?
Exactly. And so you're going to want to do it as soon as you can. I mean, that's something that you want to look at now. You don't want to wait on something like that. I could tell horror story after horror story. Even when I went to DePaul University for my certified financial planning program, they would talk about someone who had waited too long to get life insurance, et cetera. This is over 20 years ago. It's the same story. The longer you wait, your health doesn't get better usually, and then you need to have it addressed. So why not take care of something that could really be a burden on your family because you weren't able to go and get it when you should have.
And a spoiler alert here for our final of these three biggest expenses in retirement. But Tim, healthcare costs are growing well above what has traditionally been the average rate of inflation on other goods and services.
Right. And you're looking at, the Fed's whole job is to get inflation down to about 2%. Obviously, the horse has been out of the barn for quite a while. So, yeah, you're looking at health insurance is even worse than the 8% that we're looking at for inflation. Cost of food has gone up over 10%. Inflation, we call it the silent thief. And the example I always like to give in my classroom is in 1976, you could buy buy 4 tires at Sears installed for $200. And, nowadays 4 tires is about $1,000, and that's not including the crazy inflation, hyperinflation that we're seeing right now. So these are all things that we talk to people about, trying to educate them that, you have to plan ahead. You have to make sure your dollar is growing. Even though the markets might be choppy, you need to have some equity positions. Maybe with a stop loss, of course. I advocate for active money management all the time on this program. If you're a buy and hold person, you're getting pummeled right now. And I don't understand why you'd sit around and watch this carnage. Make sure that you make a difference.
Well, it is the third on the list here of the biggest expenses in retirement, and maybe not as tangible as the first two, but the silent thief of inflation is real and must be accounted for. Tim, how do we formulate a protect and grow plan to generate income confidently throughout retirement that includes and addresses the potential and the reality of inflation?
Well, for us, what we normally do is we put an inflation number in there that we need to have. Like, let's say someone says, I need to have it $100,000 a year to live on. Then we juice it by about 4% at least to show them what inflation is going to, what can do for the dollar. We want to make sure that it's growing and staying ahead of that. And our charts literally show it in green if they're staying ahead of it. And if it goes red, it's not a good sign.
I like spreadsheets, Tim. I like plugging in the numbers and the equations and then running out the scenarios and the math. And it's interesting, that rule of 72, kind of that financial rule that says, hey, if you're earning a certain interest rate, compound interest, divide that interest rate into 72, and that's how long it takes for your money to double. But the same is true for inflation. So even at just a 3% inflation. Our need for income to cover our current expenses will double in about 24 years. And that's not even adding any new line items into the budget as we often do.
Right. And you go at 4% and it's 18 years. So, these are things that people have to take into account.
Here's the scary thing. At 8%, it's only 9 years.
Right. Right.
It is scary if we were to continue at this current rate, Tim. We've got to get that under control somehow, which is what the Fed is doing. But in turn, there is an expense that is not listed in this report, notably that market volatility and the expense of a down market is not listed as one of our potential largest expenses in retirement, Tim.
Right. And, unfortunately, if I need more money from my portfolio, which is also down, I'm locking in those losses, and taking the money out and running with it is not beneficial to me at all. So these are things that need to be addressed in retirement. And I feel like a lot of people are, hoping for the best, and hope isn't the way you retire. You need to retire with a plan, a conclusive plan that's going to tell you exactly what you need for retirement, how you're going to stay ahead of inflation, how you're going to take care of taxes, and of course, how you're going to pay for healthcare.
I heard somebody say something the other day that I thought was remarkable. It really kind of a light bulb moment for me, which was that retirement is so scary because taking income is the same as a loss. That money is gone from your portfolio. If you have created income, you have lost money. Exactly.
So that's why you have to be careful. I always explain to people in our classes that 90% of America, we don't have pensions. You're a net seller of assets. The only growth you're going to get in retirement is through your portfolio in the stock market. The bonds have been hit for the last years. These are all things that are going to pot, if you will. So you need to make sure that you're staying ahead of it by investing in stocks, but you have to be cautious. A money manager that is worth its price in gold right now is someone who's outdoing the index and having stop losses.
Well, once again, if you would like to have a complimentary review, a retirement planning strategy session, if you would like to put together your own Protect and Grow plan, the proprietary written retirement income plan available there at TJ Stearns Inc., give certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns, CFP, a call, 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. 800-640-2256. He does also have this report, this 2-page resource that we have pulled from today, available to you if you would like to go over it on your own. The 3 biggest expenses in retirement and how to plan to control it. If you'd like to talk it over with a loved one, a spouse, a family member, maybe even a coworker who's been talking about retirement around the water cooler, an excellent resource to get the thought process going in the right direction is this report, The 3 Biggest Expenses in Retirement and How to Plan to Control Them. You can call and request that. It can be in your email inbox or in your hands very quickly. Or if you are one of the first 10 callers, that book, the Essential Retirement Planning Strategy Guide that Tim Stearns makes available to the first 10 callers to the program with at least $500,000 saved for your retirement, because it is a retirement planning strategy guidebook that is most appropriate if you meet that description. Pick up the phone and give a call. 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. 800-640-2256. To sum it all up, though, Tim, in order to combat these largest potential expenses in retirement, you got to have a written plan for how to generate income that specifically addresses them.
Yes, you have to have a written plan. I say this for yourself as well as your spouse. If something happens to him or her, and you don't, the other person wasn't really involved in the planning, this obviously makes things easier for them. It's bad enough that they've lost their spouse, but they have a plan. They have a plan and they can stick to it. Obviously, our plans are dynamic. Things change by the minute in the world, the crazy world that we live in. So we have to make sure that that's a flexible plan, but get ahead of it and make a plan now. While your health is good, while your brain is good, your mind, sound of mind, and have these things done so that you can know exactly where you stand. Are you going to retire tomorrow? Are you going to retire in 5 years? Who knows? But if you do the work and put in the work, you'll find that out.
Take a proactive look at your tax plan. Be careful enough to plan for care expenses and build in pay raises into your written retirement income plan. Those items together in that protect and grow written retirement income plan will lead to quality of life and confidence in retirement, a greater degree. And if you would like to take advantage of the offer, similar reviews, similar written plans for your income in retirement have easily been valued at $1,000 to over several thousands of dollars. We have seen them cost as much, but Tim Stearns CFP does make them available for radio show listeners, for podcast viewers with no cost, no obligation. Just give a call, 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256, 800-640-2256. As always, Tim, we appreciate the important discussion, the topics of concern for savers, investors, and retirees, and the proactive perspective on how to approach these things and handle them into our financial future.
It's my pleasure, Pierre. Thank you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to get your own Protect and Grow plan, if you'd like the book Income Allocation, or if you'd like this resource, the 3 biggest expenses in retirement and how to plan to control them, pick up the phone now and give a call. 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. Always a pleasure speaking with Tim Stearns, CFP. He's looking forward to hearing from you soon, helping any way he can.
Tune into Chicagoland Certified Financial Planner Tim Stearns' full radio program on 890 WLS every Sunday at 11 a.m. and visit tjstearns.com for many valuable resources, including other great episodes of Chicagoland Retirement. Be sure to subscribe.
Securities offered through TJ Stearns, a registered representative of Crown Capital Securities LP, member FINRA SIPC. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature, not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs.